Welcome to your coaching session. Welcome to a session that focuses on you. Let's move out of the way any expectation of statistics being given to you, because your journey is unique. And that's what we're focusing on today's session. You and your unique journey. Let's embrace perfect imperfections. I never rehearsed. I have my notes. Not that I don't think you are that important, but because life happens, right? So be prepared to be challenged in this session. Be prepared to have an open mind. And let's focus on you and your journey. Because in the end, you are deciding to keep playing this video out of curiosity for whatever reason it is. But I trust that in the end, we will have some benefit to you. There's many paths that we can follow in life. For many, it's a straight and narrow path, but for others, there are these forks in the road that we see but often do not venture. Okay. Call me crazy, but I like to see people happy. I like to see businesses, people flourishing. Have you printed out that personal guide workbook that was sent to you with your registration confirmation? Right, if not, no problem. I'm going to get me quickly a cup of coffee and give you some time. If you don't have the workbook, a pen and paper will be perfectly fine. See you soon. Okay, welcome back. So, my cup of coffee, clean clothes, new background. So, remember this webinar and this session is about you. So, it's going to challenge you if you have never questioned your way of living before and you feel that there is this unhealthy aspect around it that is stopping you from being a more authentic, independent individual. So be prepared to have your mind opened up a little bit to being challenged in a different way of thinking. You can pause the video, right? And if you feel you need to stretch your legs, get a warm cup of coffee, and then just continue at your ease and your convenience. If you have any questions or comments that you would like to post, use the comment section below and we can get into it either during the webinar or at the end of the webinar, right? Depending on the complexity of the questions or the comments, which is all welcome. Now, the first activity that you will find on page number 5, right? It was a pre-session activity, but feel free to answer it now during the session. And the question was, how are you? Now, this seems like a very simple question that people ask, but if you look at this image, you will see that often our lives, right, are filled with so many aspects. Your journey through life, your family, your career, your personal aspirations, your worth, your self-esteem, your business, your marriage, your stress, your anxiety. There is so many things that impact who you are and the way you feel, the way you behave, and the way you ultimately interact with life and people around you. So when you ask the question, how are you? I would like you to answer that as honestly as possible. And you can use the space on page number 5 to actually answer that. Honestly, reflect on that question. How are you feeling? How does your emotions affect your behavior based on how you feel, right? Taking into account all those different aspects. And also look at what was your intention for joining this webinar? What do you expect to get at the end or during this webinar? Why is it that you chose not to skip or reject this invitation? What about you and your life stoked your curiosity to actually continue watching, right? So jot that all on page number 5. Throughout life, we go through different stages and it fluctuates, right? And ultimately at the end, you want to reach this top level, and we'll get to that now in a moment. But the areas that we fluctuate in, right, that we try and determine through coaching would be things like indecisiveness. You just cannot make up your mind. You go to a restaurant, you have a look at the menu 10,000 times, you just can't get to it. or you rely on somebody else to make a decision for you. So you're in an area of being indecisive. Then numbing out. This is basically where you are so emotionally detached from a situation that you are just blocking everyone and everything out, and you are just going through a static motion, right? So there's no feeling in it. So for example, if there's a person that you speak to and you don't really wish to engage them emotionally, then you just numb out and you just have these filler responses like, okay, yeah, sure. There's no proper engagement. So you numb out. There's other mechanisms that you can use to numb out: your TV, your cell phone, just daydreaming, for example, in an unproductive manner. So that is the stage of numbing out. Then you get like isolation, where you just want to be alone. And this ties into the next one, which is victimization. And that is where you constantly find yourself placing you in a state of being the victim. Everybody's doing you wrong, for example. And then you tend to isolate from society, from people, and even isolate your mind from being challenged with a different opinion, right? So you isolate yourself, and then you start playing a game of being the victim, right? And then you get to a stage of overwhelm, where you tend to take on so many things, but you never finish anything that you take on. So it will always be, let me do this before I get to the end result. So you keep shifting the goalpost, but you overwhelm yourself with a whole lot of things before you can actually reach the end, right? Then you get a level called overconfident. That is where you feel that you know and you've seen and you've done everything, and nobody else's opinion is going to change what you are made up of. And your confidence can often result in an area also of isolation, where you feel confident that what you are doing is correct and the only way, right? Then you get into stages which is more healthy in terms of after reflecting and actually attending to unhealthy emotions, where you get into a state of calm and you can actually prioritize your work and achieve. And this is where you reach the top level, which is called mastery, right? Now, using the word achieve is very closed in terms of it is a journey that you are traveling, right? So, and when we fluctuate, it means that 1 minute you will have calm and prioritized, and the next minute you will dip into another phase, then up into calm and then dip, up until a point where you can actually master what we or objective coaching aims to achieve, and that we will talk about next, is the foundation upon which you build yourself. And the 3 key elements of independence, authenticity, and emotional stability, right? That you build yourself on in order to reach this level of mastery. In your activity workbook on page number 6, you can jot down any areas that you can relate to. So isolation, overwhelm, overconfidence, numbing out. If you can identify any areas in your life that you feel you can relate to, jot them down. You don't need to get into the specifics of it, but just note them so that when you reflect on it after the webinar, you can actually then put the meat to it, so to say, or the detail to it, right? What objective coaching looks at is this foundation that has either not been built or it has been but structured incorrectly. So there's a misalignment between these 3 key elements. The first one is independence, the second one is authenticity, and the third one is emotions, right? Or your emotional well-being. Now, what we at Objective Coaching do is address these 3 elements first, so that we can build a solid foundation for you to work on, right? So think of a house. If the foundation of the house is not solid and built, everything that you put on top of it will either crack, crumble, or fall down. Or if the foundation is solid and it can withstand any weather conditions, the house that is built on top of that foundation will be able to survive, right? And flourish and prosper, however you want to see it. But just think of a house and a foundation. So if your foundation is not correct, everything that is on top of it will not be correct. So what we do at Objective Coaching is we first look at the foundation. Okay, and those three key elements. In order to address this foundation, you have to ask yourself what your current mindset is. Okay, is it a fixed mindset? Now, a fixed mindset is where you avoid any challenges. You just want to be under the radar, right? So you don't take on new tasks, you don't challenge yourself to do new things, because that would mean you have to take responsibility for doing something new, which could possibly be a failure, and so on and so on. So a fixed mindset will avoid any challenges. You give up easily, right? So if somebody gives you something to do, or you try something new and you don't get it right the first time, you just give up, right? And that is again to avoid any challenge or responsibility of actually trying and going further. A fixed mindset is also threatened by success. So if you see other people's success, then, or maybe you've been in the company of others that display this type of behavior, they see people with success, then they have a possible story or a reason why, but it's never the acknowledgement or the happiness for that next person, or the need to learn from that person that is successful. There's always a negative story, and again, which then takes you out of a place of responsibility to actually try what these people are doing, so that you can also attain success, right? So there is this feeling of being threatened, right? Then your desire to look smart. You express yourself in a way that is not authentic. And then often it comes out that you remember the overconfident stage? That is where you need to express yourself as, oh, I know it all and I don't need you to tell me what to do. I'm perfectly fine. And it often comes across as a very arrogant way of displaying your behavior. So that is where you need or have the desire of showing that you are smart. And I'm not saying being smart is anything wrong, but where it reaches a level where you are closed up to actually listening to another person's opinion against what you know. And then you ignore feedback, right? So if people give you feedback, you kind of see it as a personal attack towards you, a victim mode again. This person is pressing down on me, as opposed to seeing the merit in what they are saying, okay, towards being successful, for example. And then you have fixed abilities. So what you knew from back then is the same thing that you know now, and you are not moving up, for example. Now moving to the other type of mindset, and that is a growth mindset. Now this is basically the opposite of what I've just spoken about. This is a mindset that is free, a mindset that wants to be challenged and explore new avenues of doing things and discovering new capabilities and abilities in order to achieve something different than just a flat line, for example. So here you want to be challenged. Here you do not mind receiving feedback. You do not see feedback as a personal attack. You do not regard yourself as the smartest person, but know that success is not attained only by one person, that you actually need multiple people, that you gather strengths from. Because you as one person alone, you do not have all the abilities. Let's just cut through that notion of I can do it on my own. Yes, you might be able to do certain things on your own, but we are not all geared towards everything. So somebody is good in finance, somebody is good in marketing, somebody is good in HR, for example. You do not have all those, not even the CEO of a company. They have the knowledge of it, but not necessarily the expertise in everything. right? So their background might be in finance, but they have the knowledge of HR and marketing, but they consult the experts, for example, to achieve a holistic goal and objective. So a growth mindset, you find inspiration in other success. So if somebody else is successful, you would rather want to learn from that person and adopt and apply it in a method that is suitable to you, so that you can also achieve some form of success, depending what that is and what you are chasing in life. Okay, you have a desire to learn. You want to learn more. In today's technological age, it is not difficult to learn, right? You just click on YouTube, you surf the internet, and there is loads of information for you to learn and explore, for you to find, whether it's for a business, whether it is to find a different hobby or interest in your life. There are ways of exploring, as opposed to just numbing out to life and just doing what you were doing, right? And keeping it that way. So you need to decide, and you can use your personal notebook on page number 8 to jot down what your current mindset is. Is it fixed, or is it in a state of growth? And what is your likelihood of changing, right? Or what is stopping you from changing? If you are in the unhealthy mindset, which is a fixed mindset, what is in your way of moving up and accepting challenges, accepting criticism, finding strength in somebody else's success? So use that space on page number 8 to jot down quickly what your current mindset is and what is your likelihood of changing your trajectory if it is the unhealthy part of a fixed mindset. Mindset. It is the established beliefs or a way of thinking that determines your behavior and your outlook towards life and your mental attitude. Now, looking at the word established, established simply implies that over the years you have built up certain ways and behaviors that helps you navigate life, right? So it is established. Remember the foundation. Now, either it is established in a positive manner or in an unhealthy manner. So you need to determine that. And it's not to say that the unhealthy manner is wrong, right? Because that is what helped you navigate life and found your way through life and your interaction with people. It has helped you up until this far. So you need to commend that type of established mindset. But now that you are curious in exploring something different, you need to determine if that type of mindset or established set of beliefs is actually helping you achieve who you want to be in life. Now that we looked at what mindset you are currently in, right? Now we're going to move to the first building block in the foundation that objective coaching focuses on, and that is your independence, right? Now, if you have 3 forms or 3 distinctions, you have independence, you have dependence, and you have codependence. Now, the last one is one that I'm going to speak quite lengthy on in terms of this section or building block. Independent, that's easy. That's somebody that is not influenced by an external entity or force or thought. Now, this is not to say that you are isolated, right? So don't get that confused. Independence is basically, who are you stripped of your worldly belongings, stripped of people around you? Who are you as an individual, right? How are you influenced? Are you easily influenced? Do you still have the integrity to stand with your values? Do you have the strength to stand up alone, even when people around you do not agree with you? But I'm not saying stand alone in isolation by disagreeing with everybody and having this overconfident mentality that everyone else is wrong. But how quickly are you influenced, right? So independence is basically, and you can have independence in a marriage also. A lot of people feel that they are robbed of their independence when they get married. They have a perception of a ball and chain. They have their last stag party. Oh, because tomorrow I'm getting married, I'm going to be united with another person, and there goes me out the window, right? That is not independence. Independence is still having the ability to express who you are, maintain your individuality, right? And your personal journey in life and your objectives without being influenced in an unhealthy manner by external forces. So it's people's opinions, the environment that you find yourself in. Do you just succumb to your environment, or do you surpass your environment in achieving what you want in life? Then we get dependence. Now, let's use a married couple, for example. I will depend on my wife to do certain things, and my wife will depend on me to do certain things. But it's not that you lose who you are. It's just that now you are on a co-journey together, and you depend on each other to assist you in achieving this united goal. In an organization, at your work, you are employed to do something. So the company depends on you, right? But it's not that the company loses its individuality if you are not there, right? Then they would depend on somebody else to get that part of the job done. So dependence is where you have a physical need and dependence on somebody else or something else in order to achieve an ultimate goal towards something, right? Or an overall objective. So that's independence and dependence. The third one, codependence. This is one that maybe some of you have not heard of, some of you have heard of it, but you have not explored it yet. Now, codependence is a term that is generally, and this was the case for me, reserved for people that have addictions. Now, when you hear the word addiction, for me that was drugs and alcohol, right? Your physical things that you can see. There's an addiction that you have, something that you need to either numb out from life or use so that you don't need to face a current reality, right? But if you look at this definition and look at it very carefully, a codependent person is one with an excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, right? On a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. Now, when we see illness or addiction, again, my perception used to be drugs, alcohol. But if you look at the word emotional, right? Reliance, an excessive emotional reliance. This you will find very commonly in marriages. You will find it commonly between mother and child, where there is this codependence where you cannot function without having the other person there. So remember the example I used before of dependent, where a company depends on you to do something, but if you're not there, the company will survive, right? That part can still be done. And remember, independence, where people around you are gone, things around you are gone, you are still able to stand alone. Codependence is when somebody or something is not present, you are not able to function. So let's use marriage as an example, right? Or a relationship that you're in. Remember the stage that we spoke about earlier of victim mode, right? And isolation. So how often do you hear people say, oh, you don't love me, right? Or you this, you that, right? So what that is showing is that somebody requires you to fulfill a certain need, right? Now, it's fine if somebody is making a joke or saying, oh, you don't love me or things like that. But if it results in an unhealthy behavior where it ends up in arguments or disagreements to a very negative and unhealthy level, where the simple result of that was an emotional need that you needed fulfilled from somebody else that you could not get, right? And because you could not get that, it results in this toxic relationship and cycle that perpetuates. If you do not identify it as codependent, make any notes regarding the 3 distinctions of independent, dependent, and codependent. And on page 9 specifically, can you identify any codependent relationships or behaviors that you perhaps have or somebody else has on you? Okay, so for example, if somebody does not want to be alone, they suffer from a fear of loneliness, right? So they depend on other people to feel that they are acknowledged, that their existence is validated. Often that would come with emotions of guilt, where one would make the other feel guilty for leaving, for example, in order for them to stay. So there's a codependent relationship, and the other one that has the need for always being there for somebody would then stay. So there's this guilt of come back, there's the guilt of okay, I'll stay. Come back, stay. So there is this cycle and this toxic relationship that would then exist. And what this results in would then be outcomes of numbing out to life. So you're just there because of somebody else. But it is actually challenging and questioning your independence as an individual, stripped of somebody else that is codependent on you. So I do hope that this somehow makes sense in terms of the 3 distinctions, where ultimately objective coaching's objective is to get you independent, not to get you out of relationships, but to get you at a level of independence where you are not codependent on somebody else, and where you have the insight towards other people that are codependent on you and how to deal with that, so that you can get out of that unhealthy environments or toxic cycles or relationships in order to progress your purposeful and individual life. Okay, so use page 9 to jot down any codependent behaviors that you feel that you do have, and then immediately after that on page number 10, if you feel that you have any addictive or addictive behaviors or any addictions, but more specifically emotional, right? So do you have an emotional dependence or addiction upon somebody else, where if that person is not there, your very existence does not make sense? Or does somebody else have this emotional or addictive behavior towards you, where if you are out of the equation, their life can't possibly exist, for example? So use that space on page 9 and 10 to jot down any notes or thoughts that you do have regarding this first building block of our foundation, which is independence. Once you are done jotting down any notes that you do have, on page number 10, you will also see there are 2 URL links, web links, which is also available on my Objective Coaching Facebook page and also in the comment section below. The first one will measure your independence as an individual, right? Your level of independence. The second one is focused on couples, right? And how codependent you are on each other. And then this could possibly help you as well in clarifying this area of independence and codependence. Now that we looked at independence, which is the first building block or area that Objective Coaching focuses on in terms of building you towards mastery, the second building block of your foundation is authenticity. You being you and genuinely you. So your intentions, your behavior, your thoughts are authentic in terms of your objectives in life. And it's not influenced or changed when somebody else challenges your opinion, right? You are not codependent on anybody. You can stand alone as an individual and focus on your intentions and behaviors towards an authentic path. Now, you will see that there are 6, and I call them wise men, right? Wise women. Why? Because once you start holding company with these 6 aspects, you start determining your level of authenticity, right? And the biggest question, or the most unasked and unanswered question, is why? Why do you do what you do, right? So, for example, when you smile at people, why do you smile at people? Is it because you have this notion of an expectation that if you smile, they should smile back at you? Then ask yourself, if you smile at somebody and they don't smile at you, what is your reaction? It's very simple, and it might sound very silly, but think of that one example as your guiding point when determining authenticity. So when you're smiling, is it because that's what you naturally want to do as an individual, and if somebody does not smile back at you, it does not affect who you are inside, and it does not affect you smiling at that person the following day? Do you smile at people only when you want things done or you want something from them? Do you only smile at people when you are happy? Or do you only smile when they are happy, for example? So why do you do what you do? Then if you look at the other questions of how, when, what, where, and then the last one, how. When you take one action, for example, and you start interrogating it with these wise men, one at a time, you will start seeing yourself being challenged. Challenged in a way of actually questioning what you are doing in life and determining if it is expressing your authentic self, right? So smiling was one simple example. On page 11, you can jot down any other examples that you may feel that is questioning or tugging at your authenticity. One that is very applicable to me is when you attend functions. Why do you go? I used to ask myself this when I reached this level of questioning. Why am I going to a certain function? Am I going because it's family? Am I going because if I don't attend, what are people going to say? Am I going because I don't want to miss out on anything, or I need to know what's happening? Why am I going to functions? Then where am I going? When am I going? So now I'm asking these different questions regarding going to a certain place, right? So now when I attend functions, it is not riddled by these expectations of I need to attend because people see me there. I need to attend because I don't want to miss out on anything. Now I attend those same functions, but funny enough that I'm saying this with no feeling inside, right? So I'm attending it because I feel that I want to, but not based on a feeling of an expectation or set on a conflict. Now this is where the ultimate point comes in. Your authenticity is questioned when there is a conflict. So of doing something and not doing it, right? So for example, if you attend, but inside you have this feeling of you don't wish to attend because for whatever reason there's somebody there that you don't like, or you don't feel like going out today, you're tired today, but in the end you drag yourself and you go anyway. So there was this initial conflict or battle that happened between your emotions, your thoughts, and the actual outcome or behavior, right? And if you do have this battle and you decide you're going to stay, what are the thoughts that happen after that? Are you going to stay now and then think, oh, what are people going to think of me? What What am I missing out on? Things like that. So there is a constant battle of emotion and behavior. And this is when you know your authenticity is being questioned or challenged. So on page 11, jot down anything that you feel challenges your authenticity, whether it be smiling, whether it be attending certain functions, even at work. If you are in your staff room or canteen, do you feel obligated to actually go and sit with people because you don't want to be isolated or show your independence? Do you just join them just because, but actually inside you're feeling you don't wish to sit here or be here or even be in this organization, for example, but you're still coming there and you're validating it with reasons that is overpowering your actual feeling inside and leading you towards an unauthentic behavior? Okay, so many a times we stay in a certain behavior or a certain relationship because of fear of expressing our independence and authentic way of actually wanting to be, okay, based on a fear of change. Remember the fixed mindset? Based on a fear of change, based on a fear of being challenged and actually taking responsibility, because that is the actual crux of it. You learning how to take responsibility for yourself by yourself and not being codependent on anyone or anything. So don't interrogate everything that you do. So if you're going to buy a loaf of bread, don't go ask how, why, when, what. I'm speaking specifically on the negative types of behavior or emotions that you feel in life that drain you, right? Where there is a conflict between what you're thinking and feeling and what you're actually doing or not doing. So use the space on page 11 to jot down anything and what questions your authenticity and challenges your authenticity and why. Okay, just jot them quickly down, and then towards the end you can then just detail them again once you do your own reflection after the webinar. Then on page number 11, there's also a link available where you can test your level of authenticity with a quick survey that you can indulge in. And the link is again available on the Objective Coaching Facebook page. Moving to the last building block. Now, the first one, independence. Second one, authenticity. Now, the last one, emotions. Right? Now, this determines a lot what we think and how we behave. It stems from what we feel inside, right? Why are we feeling it? How are we feeling it? When are we feeling it? The wise man. So emotions and you. Who is in control? Is it intuition that takes over? Or is it logic and reasoning and authentic self that is taking over when it comes to your emotions? Now, your emotions is basically a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances, your mood, or relationship with others. It's instinct or intuition of feeling as opposed to reasoning and knowledge, right? So does your emotion take over immediately, or do you assess the situation and authentically and independently address the situation before reacting? Then also, do you know why you're reacting in a certain manner? Either it's a place that you're going to, a person that you're seeing, something that you are doing that's evoking a certain emotion. Okay? So fear, anger, jealousy, animosity, those type of feelings that are preventing you from actually moving from fixed mindset to a growth mindset, from moving from numbing out to life all the way through to mastery of your circumstances and your authentic purposeful life towards what you want. What is stopping you emotionally and who is in control? On page number 12, if you can think of any people, places or spaces that brings about a certain emotion, you feel free to jot them down. So it's going to challenge you to think a little bit deeper into certain situations. So hopefully there is one that is quite recent that you can just quickly jot down on page number 12. that evoked an unhealthy emotion in you, that where instinct took over before reasoning or knowledge. Many occasions we bottle up emotions, right? And we accumulate them into one simple phrase of, oh, you're stressed out, or oh, you're emotional. So this is to avoid actually looking at certain and addressing specific emotions that we do feel. So we often say, oh, we're stressed. That comes with feelings of being busy, not wanting to be disturbed, in a state of this tornado. Or we just say, oh, that person is emotional. But that often comes with sadness, with depression, with a group of emotions that is just clustered into one. Why? So that we can start understanding people, so that we can make sense of people and actually move on with life. To avoid taking any responsibility in actually finding out what's going on for that person, but more importantly, what's going on for you. So how are you feeling today? That very first question. How are you feeling today? What are you feeling today? How are you feeling it? When are you feeling it? Okay, so this challenges you to actually look specifically at certain emotions that pop up, right? Now, when I say pop up, I'm referring to your established mindset that has been built up over several experiences or over a certain amount of years, where you either numb out or you isolate, for example, in the unhealthy emotions. But these are defense mechanisms that you have built up. And what that does is you are in the middle and your defense mechanisms are all around you. And the more you train these defense mechanisms, and when I say you don't really train them, they are trained instinctively. For example, if somebody does something or you see a specific person, this defense mechanism knows exactly what to do. You're going to approach this person with a defensive attitude. You are going to brush off everything the person says. You are going to show in your whole disposition and your demeanor that you do not like this person, for example. Or if you unauthentically only smile when you need something from somebody, that mechanism will pop up automatically when you see that person or people that you need something from, when you have a codependence, right? So hopefully you are able to see how these three key foundational areas links into each other, ultimately determining if you are leading a healthy or unhealthy journey through your life. Now, these defense mechanisms, you need to applaud them, right? And one of the books that I showed in my previous video is The Power of Negative Thinking. We have to applaud them because it was them that helped us to where we are today, right? So give credit where credit is due. But now that you have opened up a curiosity towards a difference, to achieving a more purposeful and independent and authentic life, you now need to start addressing each defense mechanism. Why are they popping up? When do they pop up? How do they pop up? Right? Why are they defending you? What is it that they are defending you from? And ultimately, it is defending you from actually stepping out of an established way of thinking and behaving, and exploring a different ability or capability that would lead to your authenticity and independence, and stripping away people and things so that you can actually stand as a unit alone. Okay? Not in the selfish isolation, but in a manner that what you set out to achieve in life is not negatively influenced by anyone or anything. And when something does happen, it doesn't stop you from actually getting to the end result. It allows you to actually be more creative. It allows you to reach a level of mastery where you are in control of your emotions, and Your defense mechanisms may still be present, but they do not pop up instinctively. They will come up or either be dismissed with knowledge and reasoning, right? Now, knowledge can only come from you seeking that knowledge. So hopefully at the end of this webinar, you would be able to see that challenging what you do and questioning and interrogating what you do is a manner of addressing who you are in a healthy manner towards your purposeful, independent, and authentic life. So on page number 12, there are simple, silly questions. Who or what makes you angry? Right? So you can jot down people or places. And you might not be able to think of them right now, but remember, this is your personal workbook, which you can sit down nicely with once the webinar is over. Who or what makes you cry? Right? Who or what makes you silent? So if you're bubbly silent, maybe somebody comes in, boop, there you're silent. Why? Why do you have that reaction? Okay? How did that defense mechanism just pop up now without thought or reasoning, and just you went silent? Right? And then who or what frustrates you? There's many other questions. I just selected these simple 4 ones just to generate some thought on that. So if you interrogate your emotions based on these simple questions, it might bring about a different way of thinking and a different approach to how you actually attend to life, okay, and the people and the places around you. Your defense mechanisms has a habit of, and this video I'm trying to keep as simple as possible, not to bring in psychological terms or things like that, but you get terms known as projection, deflection, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So a self-fulfilling prophecy, for example, if you feel that somebody is bad, guess what? Your defense mechanism is only going to show you exactly what you want to fulfill in that prophecy of that person is bad, for example. And you will never ever move away from that if you do not question or address it in a healthy manner. Then projection, where somebody provides you with feedback, for example, and it is constructive feedback, you will then project it back onto somebody else just to get it away from you, so that you don't need to be saddled with actually taking responsibility to changing or actually questioning if what this person is saying is actually, true, could be true. So we tend to use our defense mechanisms to push away any responsibility from ourselves. Why? Because it's easy. If I just need to numb out and just do what I'm doing, no worries, guess what? I'm going to be okay. I don't need to accept any responsibility. Nobody's going to say anything. If I just stick to exactly what I'm doing and what my defense mechanisms allows me to stay away from, they will pop up instinctively and they will protect me. Okay? So often what this results in is blaming other people. So on page number 13, are there any instances where you perhaps blame people, places, or circumstances for what you are feeling? Right? Where you can actually take responsibility. Or are other people blaming you for what they are feeling, where they need to take responsibility for their actions, feelings, behaviors, etc.? So on page number 13, just jot down anything that you feel that is noteworthy, where you shift blame, where you shift any responsibility away from you and your part in actually steering your journey in life. So page number 13, you can jot down anything over there, and then again at the end of the webinar, anything that you may think of afterwards. Now, before we end off with the last one, what sometimes happens is that we look for mechanisms that we perceive as managing our emotions. So some of those images are just placed there for generating some thought. So music, just being by yourself, meditating, jogging, breathing, exercises, things like that. We often feel that this is managing our emotions. But Your emotions aren't managed if, when you are done with these activities, the next time you approach a certain person, place, or circumstance, that emotion pops up again. So what I refer to this as is you are just masking those emotions. Okay, so you are just temporarily suppressing them so that you don't need to feel them at that moment. But it's not necessarily to say that you are actually dealing with them in a constructive and healthy manner. Okay, so again, what may be seen as judgment right now, it's more me challenging you to think more openly with regards to what you feel, do, and what you intend, right? So on page number 13, do you have any techniques that you think is managing your emotions, but in actual fact is just a mask towards that emotion, so that you can just burn off some energy or de-stress or things like that for that moment, but once you're back in that environment or in the presence of a certain person, that emotion just flares up again, right? So you often find this in relationships or even at work. You have a conflict, you just go burn it off at the gym, or you just want to be alone, but the next day you're again with that person and it just pops up again. Then you go to the gym. So you're just repeating the same cycle, which comes across as a technique, but it's just masking because that behavior is still there. Or you go to work, you have an environment that you absolutely hate, you don't want to be there, so after work you just want to just hang out and be alone, and then the next day again the cycle just continues. So you are not actually managing your emotions because you are not questioning it, you are not understanding it, you are just masking it with something that is applicable at that moment in time that can just suppress that feeling that you have. But when you wake up the next day, is it really attended to and addressed? So page number 13, just use that space to jot down any techniques that you feel that you are doing that is rather masking your emotions rather than managing your emotions. And then on page number 13 again, there's a cool little link that you can explore. It's multiple choice questions that will help you understand your emotional stability. You can explore it after the webinar, and the link is available on the Objective Coaching Facebook page. Now, ultimately, leading towards the conclusion of the webinar is with your independence, authenticity, and emotions. Those are the three building blocks. So either you have a solid foundation or you have a foundation where your structure at the top is a bit unsettled or misaligned. And here ultimately you can ask yourself, outside in or inside out? What this means is your insides affected by what you see outside, or are you addressing the inside of you, your emotions, your authenticity, your independence, and letting that express who you are outside? Okay, so on page 15, use that section of your workbook just to jot down anything that you feel that influences you from the outside, right? That unsettles your inside. And then, are there any aspects of you that is healthy on the inside that is expressed outwardly? For example, smiling, the example I used earlier. Are you smiling just because you are happy inside? Authentically, independently, and in control of your emotions, you are just happy. And that is being expressed from the inside out. Or are you saddened inside when you see other people happy on the outside? Going into a victim mode, for example, or a numbing out mode, or isolation mode, and you're fluctuating on this unhealthy wave. That is when something on the outside is affecting you on the inside. So use that space on page number 15 to determine what aspects of the outside affect you inside and what aspects are genuinely all good on the inside that is expressed outwardly in an authentic and independent manner. Looking at all these things is going to leave you in a different mindset if you have not questioned yourself or your behavior, your intentions or your emotions ever before. it's going to leave you with a feeling of difference. It's going to open up an area of vulnerability that might scare you. And this is where coaching comes in. So what objective coaching aims to achieve is to work on those three key fundamental areas of independence, authenticity, and your emotions, while looking at what you want to achieve above this or on top of this. So it's twofold. We are working on the foundation and we are working on your objectives that you want to achieve in life. There's no quick fix when it comes to your journey. There's no DIY book that's going to tell you how to be you. Those are merely guidelines. Your journey is unique. You need to explore your own feelings, your own emotions, and your own behaviors, and your own definition of success in life. So you can watch as many videos as you want, but in the end, if you do not apply, like I say, that knowledge is power, granted, but using the knowledge is more powerful. So if you do not apply what you've learned, or you do not explore an avenue that is going to help you understand who you are and why you are doing things in the way you do them, and how to achieve certain goals in your life, the books that you read are just going to be an inspiration to you, let's call it that, but it's not necessarily a motivation or a motivating factor to get you to actually challenge yourself and do something. Wow, what a session. Thank you very much. I trust that you have benefited in some way or another, because this was totally amazing and exciting for me, and I trust that you share the same sentiments. Now, how can objective coaching help you? So, you might have seen the adverts previously, but let me remind you again of this exciting news in case you missed it out. Your first coaching session with me is absolutely free, right? So that is a one-on-one session that we will have so that you can understand my coaching philosophy, which is very simple. I focus on you and your objectives, right? And what you want out of life. So that first session is absolutely free. If you express your interest based on this coaching webinar, you get a further 50% off for your second coaching session. So your first one, absolutely free, and your second one, 50% off. What we have at Objective Coaching further to this is amazing, exciting, and affordable 4-week online programs, right? And there's 6 to choose from. So you have a program called Me, Myself, and I. So that focuses on you and finding your independence and authenticity. Then we have a program called the Me, We Journey. And this is very good for married couples or partners in a serious relationship that is struggling to find the balance between not losing your personal identity while building a healthy union and relationship with somebody else on a co-journey. Then we have what's called purpose and direction. So now you have your independence, your authenticity, but there's still something missing in your life, and that is finding a purpose and direction so that you can also live a life that you feel was meaningful. Then we have future leaders, and this is amazing for the youth or for parents that feel that their kids are just not geared in a direction that is productive for them. And this one is very good in terms of working on foundational areas that can evoke future leaders, and that is what we need in our society. Then the last 2 programs is, if you have a keen interest in helping other people, there's many myths around becoming a coach. There are many out there. You don't have the great expertise, you don't have the qualifications, but if you have a genuine interest in helping other people, let me assist you through this 4-week program to becoming a coach as well. And then the last program that we have is business coaching, right? So this is for startups, for existing businesses, where the 4-week program has foundational areas that you concentrate on when building up a business, and specifically online businesses. And if you are an existing business, that's no problem. We can then get an exclusive or personalized plan for you in terms of the areas that you are struggling with in your business. So express your interest right now in the comment section below in the next 48 hours to receive 20% off the programs and 50% off your next coaching session, right? Coaching is not about giving you the solution. Coaching is about walking the journey with you to find out what is in your way and where that journey is for you to reach the end with a goal and objective in mind. And that is what I focus on, you and your objectives. So I look forward to seeing you possibly in the next coaching session and definitely in the next free webinar session. Bye for now.